Okay, good to have Brother Stephen Mustard with us today, and he's our missionary to Sierra Leone in Western Africa, and he's going to tell us about his ministry and preach to us. So,
Amen.
Amen.
Yes, sir. Praise the Lord.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good to be here.
Amen.
It's a blessing to visit somewhere. I think the first time I was here was July 28, 2019, and almost 3 years to the day, really 2 more weeks, it'll be that time. But it's a blessing. I recognize several, almost everyone here seems like. I remember this man, I remember this family. There's so many of you I remember. I remember the brother in the back. I think are you a firefighter? Is that right, brother?
Yes.
I thought we talked about that. I remember we had a potluck dinner after work when we were here, and it's a blessing to go visit a church, then go where you're going, and then come back to revisit, and you find it basically just like it was, just like you remember it. That's not always the case. So I praise the Lord for that. Thank you for that. My wife and children were not here the last time, and as you can see, they're not here with me now. I have some prayer cards that are being printed right now, some new ones, and as soon as I get those, then I'll mail some to Pastor Martin, and he can bring them here to the church, and you guys can get one of those. But when we came the first time, we had 2 children, a boy and a girl. We now have 3, and my wife is expecting our 4th. Amen. And so she's due in October. When we went to Sierra Leone, we left in May of 2021, and we went there. We really didn't have any plans of coming back, especially not this early anyway. But when we found out that my wife was expecting, we realized that she had some kind of serious, what could be very serious complications with that. With the pregnancy and her health in general. And so I made the decision to bring my wife and kids back. So I brought them back here to the States in March, and then I went back to Sierra Leone for 2.5 months to prepare our home to where we could be away for several months. And so, Lord willing, after the baby's born in October, we'll be able to go back over. With our 3rd, we were able to go. We went when he was 3 months old, so if we're able to do that again, we're hoping to be able to leave by the end of January, first part of February, and return back to Sierra Leone. So we're excited about that. The work is going good. I thank you for your support and your prayers for our family. It's a blessing to not have to be concerned every month whether or not you're going to have people still supporting you and that they don't drop you or whatever. And you guys have been faithful to not only just in praying for us. I know you pray for us. I know that from talking to many of you, but also the financial side. I really do appreciate that. It's been a blessing to our family, and it's amazing to me to come in and then see what else you're doing and how the impact that you're making, not just in our ministry in Sierra Leone, but all around the world. And according to the Bible, that's fruit that will abound to your account. Amen. Amen. So thank you for that. The bulk of our time in Sierra Leone, I feel like we have spent the bulk of our time simply trying to learn how to live. You get used to everything here. Everything here is convenient. If you want to get a plumbing fitting, you go to Lowe's and they've got an aisle that's got thousands. Right? Sometimes it might take 2 days to find a 3/4 inch plumbing fit. Something as simple as a fitting for a water line, it might take you 2 days to find what you need. There's not a one-stop shop. There's no such thing as a Walmart. We don't have any fast food restaurants. There's barely a stable power grid. You only have about 2 or 3 hours of electricity a day on a power grid. The other times of the day, if you want to have electricity, you either have to generate it yourself with a generator, or you have to have a solar system. And thankfully, we've got a solar system that's able to give us enough light and do what we need to do I have to run a generator to run a well pump. There's no such thing as city. There is city water, but it's not what you think. It's a truck. It's a tanker truck, and they pump it out of the creek, and then they bring it, and you have a tank, and they fill your tank up, and then from there it's gravity feed into your house. But we're not, the city that we live in, or the town that we live in, they don't even have that. So the first part of our time, we were actually living in the village, and I was having malaria every month that we were there. I think I've had it 11 times since we've been there. And so after talking to some of the other expats that live in the country and some of the doctors, they suggested that we should consider moving out of the village into a town and see if that would make a difference with the malaria. And I guess it just takes time to find out. I don't know. I still had it even living in the city. But anyway, moving to the city, even in the, I say city, it's a town. We have a hand pump on a water borehole, and so we hand pump all of our drinking water. It is good water to drink. It's out of the well, so we hand pump all of our water. And then I have a submersible pump inside. I'll start a generator and pump it to a tank, and then that gravity feeds into the house to flush toilets and take showers with. So it's a different world. Nothing is convenient. I'm not complaining. I love it. We love it. But there's really nothing convenient about living there. But what I've learned is if you'll just embrace that, if you'll embrace it and just adapt to it, it really makes it really fun. And 90% of the contacts and relationships that we've been able to build with people, if it would have been a convenient place to live, I would have never built those relationships. Right. I would have never gotten to know the man in town that sells concrete stuff that sells iron, rebar or cement or plumbing fit. You would have never got to, it's like it used to be here, I guess, years ago, whenever you go into a hardware store and you had to get to know the person before they'd ever help you, kind of deal. And that's the way it is for us there. And so through that, and really there's nothing special about that. It's just the fact that we live in a country that still goes on relationships with people. And people don't ignore you when you walk by. No one, it's extremely offensive in Sierra Leone culture if you try to talk to someone and they don't listen. They're really hospitable, so they'll listen to what you have to say. They'll at least give you the time of day, and that's a big difference from here. I know I've lived in America my whole life, but just the short time we've been over there, coming back here, just everyone just seems rude. Everybody's got somewhere to go. No one has time for anything. And I didn't realize. I guess I was just right in the middle of all that and didn't even realize it. But that's why when you read missionary prayer letters about foreign countries and how many people get saved, it's because when you get there, you don't have all the distractions that you have here. You do what you're actually supposed to do, and you preach the gospel, and you take the time necessary to build a relationship, and your schedule's not, you don't look at your Google Calendar to find out what you're going to do in 30 minutes. You just live life and you build relationships with people. And that's kind of how the bulk of our time has been. But in that, I've been able to meet a lot of local pastors who have churches there, who have ministries. And we've been able to do 4 pastor schools where we gather, we invite, now not all of these are Baptists, but me personally, if they will come or allow me to, if they'll come to me or allow me to go to them for 3 days, 8, 9 hours a day, and teach and preach the Word of God, I don't care what they are.
Amen.
If they're willing to hear the truth of the Scriptures, we'll do everything we can to get that to them. And so we've been able to have 4 pastor schools where we'll come. We usually have 20 to 30 men, and we'll just pick a book of the Bible, or we'll pick a topic or various topics, and we'll just spend 3-4 days from 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock in the evening, and we'll preach and teach as much as we possibly can. We try to give them printed resources to take back to their churches, and that has been a huge blessing. One-on-one discipleship has been a really big part. I was meeting with several guys every week, and we would sit together for an hour, sometimes 2 hours at a time, and just study verses in the Bible, talk about just discipleship, just learning stuff. And yes, sir.
Do you do that in English?
Yes,
They speak English?
I do it in English, but I also do it in Creole as well, which is their trade language, Creole. Yes. So we do a lot of discipleship. We've got open doors into all the public schools for scripture distribution, prisons, chapel hour. A lot of these ministries, the only hindrance that I've found to ministry in Sierra Leone is energy. I always just end up running out of energy and can't seem to be able to go and do all these things. But we do have several public schools that we try to visit at least on a monthly basis and teach religious instruction classes. It's a part of their government curriculum. So we're excited about that. We took a full container of scripture, but we took a very large shipment of scripture portions, John and Romans, New Testament, and whole Bibles, and we'll take the New Testaments and we'll get those to the schools and we'll distribute those to the students, and we'll take an hour or so at a time and teach a Bible lesson starting usually with salvation, and then from there, if we get to go back, we'll teach for several weeks on salvation, what it means to have your sins forgiven, and all of that. And children's ministry, that's a big part. Which you can really do that anywhere. You don't have to have a special place for that. There's a couple local churches that I work with directly that were established years ago from some Sierra Leone pastors who had been led to the Lord by some independent Baptist missionaries in the 80s in Liberia, who ended up having to leave because of the civil wars that broke out. And so these churches, I've been able to find them, and I teach a Bible Institute class on Tuesday nights there with those guys. We started a church in a village, and it was a little bit of a slow start. It takes a lot of work to start a church, but we're trying to get that church. We have the building is complete. It's a small building. It's made out of mud block. It's not a big building, but it's big enough. And when I say it's not a big building, the African culture. Have any of y'all ever heard the phrase, "Don't worry about the mule, just load the wagon"? Well, that's how they look at everything. And so it don't matter if it's a Land Cruiser. I've literally hauled 15 people in a Land Cruiser before. And they'll take a church that we would think would only hold about 15 or 20 people, and they'll pack 60 in there. So it doesn't take a very big building. And that's been a big blessing for us. We have a man that I work with every week, and so he takes what I teach him and basically takes that and leads this group of people in the village. Jane Batoya is the name of the village. You've probably read about that in our updates. And so he leads them. He holds the Bible study and keeps the services there. And so that's been a real big blessing. And I feel like we haven't really, I feel like we've just started, it's like peeling an onion. I feel like we've just started peeling back the layer, that top layer. And if everything continues like it has the first year over the next few years, it's really no telling what God's going to do there in Sierra Leone. I'm one of the only, there's only a couple more even close to like-minded missionaries in the country. In fact, I only learned of another American this morning by seeing a prayer card that's in Liberia. There's just not a lot of missionaries in West Africa, and it's I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the living conditions, maybe, I don't know, whatever it is. There's just not a lot of missionaries there. So pray that God would send laborers to our field over there. It's one of the easiest countries in the world to live in. There's hardly no restrictions. It doesn't cost a lot of money to maintain a visa, to stay in the country. Matter of fact, the country requires you to get a residency. After you're there 30 days, they require you to get a residency permit. And that's $50 a year. I don't know. You can't hardly live here for $50 a year. DMV and all that stuff. But it's a real easy place to live. As far as that goes, being able to obtain visas, I know a lot of missionaries have that trouble. And thankfully, we don't struggle with that. So anyway, it's just been a real blessing, and we simply couldn't be there if it wasn't for for churches like you all getting behind us and helping us there with the work. I put a piece of notebook paper here on the front pew. If anyone would like to receive our prayer letters, I confirmed this with Pastor Martin. He said it was all right to do that. So that's there. After the service, just put your name and email address. We'll add you on there, and that way every other month, I think it is, that we send out an update. You'll be able to get those directly. I'm not a good public speaker when it comes to stuff like this, and I always feel like I forget stuff. So I'm going to ask you, do you have any questions about Sierra Leone? Anybody? Yes, sir.
What's the culture, overall culture like? Very president.
Yeah, it's not, okay, I have to start with this. It's an 80% Muslim country, but the people are very rooted, deeply rooted in their animistic, witchcraft, idolatry, spiritism, human sacrifice. There's still people over there that eat people. I've literally watched from my bedroom window, I've watched people dig bodies up from the graveyard to offer them for human sacrifices. So that side of it, that's what it's like. Now, on the other side, they're very, very, very hospitable people. It is a huge offense there to not respect an elder, to not stand when an elder walks in, walks up. You always, if someone comes to your house, the first thing you do, you greet, you offer them a seat. All of their homes, even though they're mud houses with grass roofs, they all have most of them are that way. Down in the towns, it's a little different, but they all have what they call a guest room that's self-contained with an exterior door, so that if there's a stranger passing through or somebody that's just passing through that needs a place to stay for the night, they can host them in their home and let them sleep there. Their secret societies are really big, both men and women, so that's a huge part of their culture. They call them devils, and they'll dress up in costumes, and it's very similar to what you see in Papua New Guinea in that respect. And so that's a really big part. And during those times of the year, whenever those are the heaviest for recruiting new people for their societies, you see a lot more of the sacrifice and human sacrifices and witchcrafts and things like that. But overall, I don't feel like it's really a dangerous place to live. We lived in the village, and then we've tried to mingle with the locals as much as possible. We eat their food, we eat at their house, the way they eat culturally. You don't have your own bowl. Right. You put everything in one big saucepan, and you make a circle around that, and everybody gets a spoon. Right. Or if you're in the village, they eat with their hands, but you eat out of that. We've tried to adapt as much as possible as we can with that, to my knowledge, I've never gotten sick from eating their food or eating with them. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, that was pretty general. I just didn't know if that mentioned in the Muslim house or the gospel.
They'll listen to again, that goes back to their culture. They will at least want to know what you want to say, and then after if they don't want to hear it, they can turn you off, but they at least have to give you the option to tell them what you want to talk about. So that's a blessing. Now, if you go to a village, you have to get permission from the town chief to enter the village, and the town chief wants to know why you're there, so that gives you the open door to at least give the gospel to the town chief, because that's you're telling him why you're there. And they don't always let us go in, especially in the northern part. You see a lot more. The Islam is closer to the Guinea border, is a lot more dominated than it is to the southern part, which is where we are in the southern province.
Is there any Muslim persecution against Christianity there? Open hostility and things like that? Or?
At times, the open hostility that you see there is from the societies and the tribal stuff going back and forth. It's not so much the Muslims, because the people there are very tolerant of other religious views. So I mean, you got a church here, they might build a mosque right there because they believe that you do have the right to choose, you know, what you want to do. So they are very tolerant. Now there are portions in the city, especially in Freetown and some of those areas, where the Muslims they'll rip the tract. If you try to give them a tract, they'll rip them in half, throw them on the ground, and they're very removed from their Sierra Leone, the culture there as a whole in the cities. So, anyone else?
How tough was malaria? What was that like? I mean, I've never
High
heard
fever,
about it.
really high fever. I get muscle aches in my neck, shoulders, and back. Really extremely fatigued. Absolutely no energy for 3 or 4 days till you get past it. A lot of throwing up, a lot of vomiting.
Any medicine they give you for it?
Yeah, I mean, you can take treatment, but it's a parasite.
Yeah.
Malaria is a parasite, and it's actually not carried by the mosquito. The mosquito is just the transmitter.
Right.
If you have malaria, mosquito bites you, bites this man, that's how it's transmitted. But it's a parasite, so a lot of times you might get rid of it, but until you actually kill the parasite, and because the parasite will just lay dormant. Like I come back here, when I got back here just a few weeks ago, I was here for about a week, and it came up, because after you get bit, it normally takes a couple of weeks for you to have symptoms. So I've had it since I've been back here already.
Is malaria contagious?
No.
From human to humans? Not?
Not unless you got a carrier, which is that's where the mosquito comes in and carries it from one person to the other. So it's just a parasite. So, but it can be pretty rough. Yeah. Good questions. Anyone else?
Just curious about the food. Like, do you and your family grow your own stuff, or how do you source your food?
Everything there is bought in a local market. It's all outside. There's nothing hard. Some stuff is refrigerated, especially if you get into the capital city. But the area where we're at is a local market. You go there and you buy. They call it potato leaf, which is it's a green. It's really good. We make a sauce out of it. Put fish or chicken inside of it. Put it over top of rice. But basically, you go to the market every day for your food. It's not like the food there has no preservatives in it. So bread, if you buy bread from a local bakery, it'll mold in a couple days. We buy all of our eggs, we buy them out. We never refrigerate them. We never refrigerate mayonnaise, ketchup, any condiment like that. We don't refrigerate any of it, because once you refrigerate it, you have to keep it refrigerated. And if you don't have a good stable power, then that's when the food actually goes bad. So everything is out in the open. You buy meat from where you go and find the goat or whatever you want to buy from, and you say, okay, that's the piece of meat I want. Cut it off and take it. If you buy street food, you need to buy it straight from the grill so that it's at a cooking temperature and no one else has touched it from the time you pull it off the grill till you eat it. Rice is the staple, so everything is with rice, and then they have several different, what they call sauce, which is a sauce, and you make that with different, whether it's cassava, potato leaf, groundnut soup, which is basically peanut butter made into a soup with fish and different seasons. It's actually very delicious, and you put that over your rice and eat it. But yeah, everything. Now the locals, whatever because it's a subsistence living. So when they get up that morning, their goal is to earn enough money for their family to eat at the end of the day. So everything is local markets, fresh. Buy it today, go back tomorrow, buy again, go the next day, buy again, like that. Most of the locals don't have a way to even refrigerate stuff. So you only cook enough for what you're going to eat then, because you don't have a way to keep the leftovers through the night or to later that day. So a lot of times after you get finished with the meal, the adults eat first, and then whatever's left in their bowl or whatever's left, then they call the kids, and the kids come and eat that, and everything gets eaten. Chicken, everything. Chicken foot soup. I know some of you probably had that before. I don't know.
I've heard it.
Nothing goes to waste. I don't know if I've answered your question or not, but that's basically like the food. Now we do have a what they call a supermarket, and it's about from that pew there that Pastor Martin's on to the wall to me. That's about the size. Maybe like a 20 by 20 or something. It's called Bo Mini Mart, and that's where we buy like our cooking oil, mayonnaise, peanut butter, stuff like that. We get from there. There's no such thing as a one-stop shop. You cannot get everything in one place. You got to go. Sometimes it'll take you all day just to get enough to get what you need for the day. Now, if you go to the capital city, the Lebanese people have several supermarkets, and they would be kind of like a Kroger or something here. Very good selection. But just to give you an example, now we don't buy. I can't afford to buy the Jif. I buy the other brand, but Jif peanut butter in that size jar, when I left, was about $17, $18. Everything's imported, so it's extremely expensive if you want to do that. We buy a different brand that's actually made in North Carolina, and it's a little bit smaller jar, but it's about $4 a jar. So you get
They do import food products from international.
Yes, yeah. A lot of stuff comes from the Middle East to Lebanon. Then there's a bunch of stuff that comes from Dubai in there. Most of the canned drinks come there, and there's not a lot of industry in Sierra Leone. One of the few that they have is actually a bottling company, and they bottle fruit drinks, and they have their brand. It's called Fresh Up, and it's I guess it would, maybe the closest thing would be a Sprite or a 7-Up or something like that. And then they have another flavor, and it would be like a very, very diluted cherry Dr. Pepper or something like that. But very,
You
very
get Mountain Dew there?
No. No Mountain Dew. The only place you can find Mountain Dew, if you do find it, is if there is someone who, because there are several companies here in the U.S. that has consignment shipping, and so there are some people that will set up a little market, and they'll have someone here that sends them stuff to sell, and sometimes you can find stuff like that in some of those shops, but for the most part.
Are there any American companies or industries over there? No.
Wow.
Everything is make it as you go. You go and you want to, there's nothing pre-made. You order it, you give them the dimensions. If you want to have a gate, you want to put a gate at the front of your place, or if you want to put a door in, you can't just go to Lowe's and buy a door. You got to measure it, take those measurements to a carpenter shop or whatever, and then everything is made to order from scratch. There's nothing pre-made that you can just go look at samples or anything. It's kind of, you design it and imagine it as you go, kind of deal. Yes, sir.
What are their views on America? How do they think of America?
That we're all rich, increased with goods, and in absolute need of nothing.
You told them differently, though. You told them differently, though.
I let them know that I'm very open and transparent with them about what America's like. Some of them think that America is nothing but one big giant city. So then I showed them a picture of me cooking some deer meat one time in an iron skillet over an open fire, and they said, "Wait a minute." That you can see trees in the background like this, and they say, you all have a bush there? They call it a bush. They say, you all have a bush there? I said, yes, we have, we have trees and stuff. They think Americans don't have problems. They think that we have no problems whatsoever because we have money. And that's the humanistic side of, that's how humanism has corrupted the gospel. And even for Americans think that the only people in the world that need the gospel are poor people.
Right.
That's not true.
Everybody.
That's humanism, and we fight against it tooth and nail. And I try to be, and what I try to show them is, let's just say, and I broke it down for them. I say, okay, this is your salary. You make $100 a month. okay? You pay all of your expenses out of that $100 a month. I said, okay, let's say in America, you make $1,000 a month. But here's what, when you come down to the end of the month, the percentage that you're left over with is not any different. You're still left with the same percent.
Right.
You might be left with $100 in America and $10 in Sierra Leone, but you're still left with the same percent. And most of them just cannot, because they say $100 instead of $10, and that's been a very big challenge to explain. But we're trying. It's difficult. So, yes, ma'am.
Do they have, I guess, medical areas, or do they do witchcraft as far as healing goes? What do they do?
There are some medical facilities. It's very limited. And witchcraft is a huge part of, someone gets sick, that's the first place they want to go, is a village doctor. They call it a bonus man, is what they refer to it in their local language. So they'll go there, and unfortunately, the Pentecostals, somebody was asking about the Muslims, I'll just say our greatest opposition in Sierra Leone are Pentecostals. They give us the most trouble of any group anywhere. And the Pentecostal and the faith healer, or the traditional medicine man, they are exactly the same. There's absolutely no difference. The Pentecostal man comes in and says, bring your money, have faith, pray your prayer, give it to me, I'll pray for you, I'll heal you, God will heal you. The traditional medicine man, bring your money, trust me, I'll offer this sacrifice, I'll do this, I'll do that, you'll be healed. And the same thing that both entities tell the other person, if you're not healed, it's not my fault, it's your fault. You didn't pay enough money, or you didn't have enough faith.
Yeah.
They're exactly the same. It's a work of the devil, and it's a tool of Satan. I hate it, I despise it, and it's damning people to hell, not just in Sierra Leone, it's here.
Yeah.
It's here. And Sierra Leone, I thought, Sierra Leone's not the only place practicing witchcraft. I mean, witchcraft is all over, and most people are just ignorant of the forms of it. I mean, if you have, just an example, yoga. Every yoga position is a Hindu god.
Yes, sir.
It's all spiritual, and when you practice yoga, what are you doing? You're embarking in witchcraft. That's witchcraft, because you're putting your body in some kind of a thing and taking breaths to arouse your spiritual improvement. That's witchcraft. I could give you all kinds of examples. Reflexology, that's another form. I mean, there's all kinds of occult practices that you could study through the scriptures and find that we do every day, and we don't even think about it, because here it's not as out in the open, and there's not a people talking about it and exposing it. I don't want to, I hope I don't step on anybody's toes, but anyway, I saw another hand somewhere. Did that answer your question? Let me say this about the medical situation. It's very broken. There's a lot of NGOs, non-government organizations that raise money, nonprofits here that raise money, or not just here, the UK, there's some groups, some Dutch groups from the Netherlands, there's some groups from Germany, and they raise a lot of money, and they send it for humanitarian aid, whether it's medical, dental, so many different things. And the corruption is so bad that most of the times that money never actually gets used for the purpose that it was raised for. So me as a missionary, because I've been that, this is a problem that you might run into whenever you, with short-term missions, you don't learn that stuff in 2 or 3 weeks or even 2 months. And I'm even more conscious now about how we use money that has been given through a local church for things because of the corruption. And I want to make sure that it's a lot better for me to be there on the ground. If I want to help we help with a lot of projects, and we help with a lot of things, but I try to find a way that I can have a direct channel straight to the horse's mouth rather than trying to go through somebody, because let's say you want to give $100 towards something. Well, by the time it actually gets to the whatever you wanted to help with, they may only get $5 of it. And I'm not exaggerating. It is so bad. So that's the biggest hurdle for Sierra Leone in their development is the corruption from the government down. Anything else? Any questions?
Can you speak about the language?
Yeah, sure. We have, Sierra Leone has, if you look on the internet, they will say English is the official language of the country. That's partly true, but when you go to someone's house, they're not speaking English. They either speak Creole, which is it's a country's trade language. Actually, the Creole tribe, the Creole people, K-R-I, not Creole from Louisiana. Not Creole, Creole, which Creole is an English-based Creole. Creole is a French-based language. Creole is an English-based language. And it's not broken English, it's a language. It's a written language. They have everything in the country. You go there, billboards, everything is written in Creole. It's not like this. It looks like a broken English. No, it's a language. You know what I'm saying? It's a language. And so that's the trait. That's the kind of the universal language. If you can speak Creole, you can talk to basically anyone in the country. Now, I'm not picking on this family, but when this lady talked her accent, I recognized, okay, she's from probably Northeast or somewhere, or has spent some time there, right? Okay.
But not originally from
But when you hear me talk, you can tell that I've never been in that area, right? So that's the way Creole is. Depending on where you are in Sierra Leone, you can you can hear the accent and say, okay, that person is from this general area. You'll hear the way that their accent. I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not trying to be rude or offensive by using that as an example, but it's true. Someone in California doesn't talk the same as someone from Tennessee.
Sure.
Someone from Tennessee talks a little bit different from Boston, Massachusetts, or whatever. And so that's the way Creole is. And there's different sayings and there's different phrases that you might have. Like, has anyone in here ever heard the term sock goblin?
What is it?
Sock goblin? Catawampus? Catawampus, sock goblin. Those mean the same thing. It's off kilter. It's just not right. Well, unless you're from the region of the United States that use those in their everyday language, you're not going to pick up on it. So that's kind of how Creole is. Different parts, you're going to use different ways to say things in different phrases. Now, aside from Creole and English, English is required to be taught in the public schools, but when you go to a public school, they're never speaking English. They're speaking Creole. So the internet can be deceiving. We thought, oh, it's an English-speaking country. We'll go there. We won't have to learn the language. And then we got there and we realized if we don't learn the language, we can't even go to the market. Because if you ask for an onion, they have no idea what you're talking about, and they're supposed to be an English-speaking group. You have to ask for yabas, which is onion in Creole. So language is essential. By learning some of the language, that has helped us because you cannot separate language and culture, right? And it teaches you how the people think. So aside from Creole English, you have there's 16, I think, tribal groups in the country, and all 16 of those tribal groups have their own language. And among those 16 tribal groups, like for example, the people that we minister with are called the Mende people. Well, the Mende people have 4 different types of Mende, again, depending on what part of the area that you're from. So like for example, if I wanted to ask someone what their name is in Mende, if I'm in the northern part of the southern province, which is where you have Barmende, I would say BBA. That is, what's your name? If I'm in the southern part of the southern province, which is Cormende, I would say Bilé. So wheat is completely different, Bilé or BBA, but it both means the same thing and it's the same language. They're both Mende. So language is very tricky, and we've tried to devote as much time as possible with that. We found a language teacher that came to our house 2 times a week for language classes that worked with Peace Corps, that was working with the Peace Corps. Peace Corps pulled everyone out of Sierra Leone for COVID, so this lady was without anything to do. So we hired her to come to our house 2 times a week, and that really did help with the language. And so it's a huge part. Without the language, when we go back, we'll pick right back up where we left off with language. It's essential. Even in my preaching there are certain things. If you go to a village, there are certain things. If you do not, we've translated from English to Creole to Mende. Sometimes through 3 people, because even though the village people can speak Creole, there are certain things that they cannot understand until it's translated in their heart language. And so the Mende language and we'll learn Creole, which we've probably got 50% of it. I can hear all of it. I can hear what they're saying. Responding is my trouble. Now my oldest son, who's 4, is completely fluent.
Wow.
He's completely fluent, and he's probably 3/4 of the way fluent in Mende among our people. So he's picked it up really fast. My wife and I had a little bit more trouble with that. And one of the things probably to that is when I went there, I got really busy with ministry because I thought that I thought it was an English-speaking country. I got really busy, and then I realized, wait a minute, I need to learn this language. So I pulled the reins back and said, okay, I've got to let this go and this go and this go, and I've got to start focusing on language. So I didn't get started learning. We didn't really start learning the language as best we should until after 7 months or 8 months or so. Now you pick up a lot in conversation and in town and stuff, but it's a huge part for sure.
Do they have a hard time translating back if you ask them, what does that mean? Do they understand that?
If I say something in English,
Yeah, you say, sometimes say, what are you talking about? Can you get it from them?
yeah, all of our teaching and Bible lessons is a very much sort of like a dialogue.
Okay.
And I don't go fast. Some people, they'll hand you a booklet and they'll say, okay, there's 10 lessons here. That means each time we gather, we're going to cover 1 lesson. You can't look at it that way. You're not in a race against any kind of clock. So, all right, I'll give you an example. We started going verse by verse through the book of Ephesians. Okay, and I spent 8 weeks on verse 1. On verse 1, I see no need in going to verse 2 until they understand.
Fully understand the first one, yeah.
Verse 1.
Gotcha.
And we covered. I didn't realize how much was in verse 1 until I started trying to teach it. So we spent 8 weeks on verse 1. That Bible study was about 6 months, and we've only made it to. We've only made it to the end of verse 4.
Wow.
Ephesians. But if you read, now let me back up and say this. I'm trying to teach people that have never sat through children's Sunday school.
I understand.
We go to villages on a weekly basis, that's like Brother Martin was talking about, that's never heard the gospel. Never. Matter of fact, I've taken my wife and kids to villages that they are the first white people that they've ever seen. Some of the women had never saw a white woman until they saw my wife.
So y'all become like a spectacle for a little bit?
For a little bit. And they all thought that we were just leaving. And one of the things that we did that really helped us was, our main mode of transportation became a motorbike because that's how they travel. And I don't know why something like that made a difference for them and eating their food. And when they saw us riding on a motorcycle and eating their food, it changed everything.
That's awesome.
And so, but we take our time. We don't get in a hurry. We do a lot of question and answer. We ask a lot of questions because, I thought about it like this. When I got saved, I didn't know the first sermon that I ever wrote out. I put the page numbers beside the verse. I didn't know anything. And I put the page number beside the verse in my Bible, so I know, okay, if I want to turn to John chapter 3, it's on page
Right.
whatever it was, kind of deal. And that's exactly how it is there. Some people have never seen a Bible. I mean, we've seen people get saved that they've never held in their hand a full Bible. They've never even been able to open up and see the scriptures in written form. They've only heard about it or whatever. So it's just it's a conviction of mine to not go in a hurry and go slow and make sure that I feel like it's a waste of my time and theirs both if there's no edification.
Right.
That's what we're there for, is for the edifying of the body of Christ. And so as they get saved, we try to take as much time as possible and not get in any hurry, which is their culture. That's their culture. Nothing. Sometimes you have to hold your finger up and close one eye to see if someone's moving. Anyway, anything else? We're getting close here to our time.
You brought up something I was going to ask you about.
Yes, sir.
How many white people are in that country, and how are you accepted as far as the racial thing is concerned?
It'd be hard for me to say how many white people. That's a pretty. That would be pretty broad. I'm just going to guess maybe a couple hundred, but that's also including the population of people there from Lebanon, which is there might be more than, there's probably several hundred actually. As far as Americans, 50 or less. I don't know, I'm just guessing. There's several people there from the UK, and there's not an issue of any kind of racial issues. I got pulled over by the police one time, and I'm not gonna tell that, okay? I'm not gonna tell that one.
You can tell us that.
But there's nothing. Sometimes this goes back to the question about being an American. There's police checkpoints everywhere there. You couldn't drive. You can't drive 10 miles without going through a police checkpoint, and that's part of that corruption with the money. And they'll hold you and they'll try to find something wrong with your vehicle or try to make something up so that you'll give them money, or try to make you. They'll try to tell you something they want you to just give them some money because they have it in their minds that Americans just have trees with $100 bills on them and you can just pull them off any time. So when you show up at a police checkpoint and you're white, sometimes it can be very difficult to get through. Now, thankfully, I've never paid a bribe. I've never paid any kind of bribe money or anything like that to go through a checkpoint, but it's gotten heated at times to get through. But they realize that you're not going to give into it. And then after they get to where they see you time and time and time again, then everything changes. Because to them, and this is the sad part, this is another thing about their view of Americans. To them, Americans are the type of people that's going to come for 2 weeks, throw thousands of dollars at them, and then leave, and they'll never see them again because they think they don't care, because they won't actually stay. So when they see you at a checkpoint, the first few times that they see you, they think they're never going to see you again. So then after you continue to go, and this is what you have to do. You just have to out-grace them. You have to have so much grace. You have to show them the grace of God, and you just have to show them, hey, I'm not here to pay bribes. I'm here for you. I'm not here for my own glory. I'm not here for me. I'm not here for my benefit. I'm here for the sake of the gospel. And once they realize that you're not up to something, you're not there. A lot of people go there trying to find diamonds and gold because it's one of the richest countries in the world with diamonds and gold. When they realize that you're not trying to do that so that you can get rich, things start to change. We've been able to see some of that, even in our short time there. So.
Is there an American embassy there?
Yes, we do have an American embassy. I've never been to it, but there is one there. I know where it's at. Yeah. Anyone else? All right. Good deal.
Amen.
Praise the Lord. Thank you guys for everything. Don't forget, if you would like to get our prayer letters, put your name, we send out an update every other month. I just actually sent this month's out on Friday, anyway, sign up, thank you for the time.
Amen.
Hope it's a blessing. And thank you guys for having me. How many got a blessing out of that?
Amen.
Yeah, that's good to hear that. A report straight from the mission field. Amen. So pray for Brother Stephen and his family and the ministry over there. And I'm sure if you have any more questions, he'll be glad to answer them after services this morning. So we'll just stand and be dismissed. Well, we got to take up an offering, don't we? We got to take up an offering. Man, I forgot to stand up. Okay. Well, you can be seated. Okay. we need a piano player. There we go. Right. And so we'll take up an offering for Brother Mustard here. So if you want to write a check, write it out to church, Saltmark Baptist Church. That way we can put them all together and just make one check from the church to him. But cash or check is fine. And so we'll give you a few minutes to get that ready. And so, Brother Matt, if you'll play something for us for a few minutes here, then we'll take up the offering in just a couple minutes.